Nowhere to run. At least that was the theory. During World War II, England sent its German prisoners of war to Canada's rugged outback, including here in Red Rock. If England was to be invaded by the Germans, Churchill did not want well-rested German prisoners ready to join the invading forces. Our prisoner of war camp was called Camp R. It was one of 10 in northwestern Ontario. Red Rock was chosen because there were 48 bunkhouses available when the local paper mill company went bankrupt. Red Rock was remote, but had a railway on which they could transport prisoners. Our prisoners were sent from England by ship and landed in Quebec City. They were greeted by the Fort Garry Horse Regiment that lined the docks as they disembarked. The regiment escorted the more than 1,000 prisoners to Red Rock on the train. Canada Day, July 1st, 1940. The trainload of 1,145 prisoners of war arrived in Red Rock. The war had reached our peaceful community. The prisoners were marched into the camp, surrounded by barbed wire. Machine guns and 5 guard towers were aimed down at them. Who were these villains of the Second World War that were now camped in our little town? We had heard so much about the evil Nazis. Many of us were scared. It turned out they were a strange mix of men. There were Nazis, regular German soldiers, German civilians, and merchant seamen, as well as political and religious refugees from Germany. There were even German Jews. Imagine being Jewish and imprisoned with the Nazis. Needless to say, there was a great deal of tension between the Nazis and the many prisoners who did not support the Nazis. One of the most famous prisoners here was Adolf Hitler's favorite pianist and friend, Ernst Hauptstengel. He was also reported to be a friend of President Franklin Roosevelt, whom he met while attending Harvard. Prisoners wore gray or blue with large red circles on their backs. This marked them as prisoners of war in case of escapes, and there were several attempts. Not long after arriving, the Fort Garry Horse Regiment was needed elsewhere, so the Veterans Home Guard took their place. The Home Guard were retired soldiers from the First World War. Most stayed in some of the first houses built in Red Rock, while the officers stayed at the Red Rock Inn. The Home Guard were welcomed into our community. There was a lot going on in Camp R that first year: escape attempts, concerts, hard work, and hard fights. The people of Red Rock kept our distance, except a silly young girl or two. It was a particularly hard winter. Snow was deep, wind blew through the rough bunkhouses, water pipes froze, men grumbled, and fights broke out. No matter how miserable the living conditions, there was nowhere to run in the winter. Camp R only operated until October 1941. They say it closed down because no one wanted to face another winter in the camp. Prisoners were sent off to other internment camps around Ontario. We townfolk breathed a sigh of relief when the last trainload shipped out and we had our safe little community back again. If you would like to see where Camp R is located, turn right as you go out the front doors. Look towards the water tower. The area between the railway tracks and the water is where Camp R was.